today's video, I'm going to be doing my mid-month wrap-up for the month of July. I was able to read 6 books and the month's not even out. Let's jump right into the video. The first book that I read this month was Ghost Talkers by Robinette Kowal. I did a non-spoilery review on this book. I'll link it in the description below for you can watch it. We follow a medium named Ginger who works for this sacred organization called the Spirit Corps that disguises itself as just an ordinary group of women helping out the troops during World War I. I thought this book was so good. Go look at my full-length review if you want to know more. I gave this book 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is an urban fantasy written for an adult audience. There are things I loved about this book and things that didn't really sit too well for me. But before we get into all that, let me tell you what this book is about. There's a lot of timelines going on here. I think there was like 3. On one of the timelines, we are in Los Angeles getting to know the traumatic history of our main character, Galaxy Stern, who just likes to be called Alex. Her entire life, ghosts have haunted her, so she turned to drugs to block them out. She's also the sole survivor of an unsolved multiple homicide. In another timeline, we follow her in present day in New Haven, Connecticut, where she ends up attending Yale University. There's these secret societies called Houses of the Veil, and she becomes a part of the Ninth House, also called Leigh. They pretty much recruit her for her rare ability to see ghosts. Each house specializes in their own specific magic. Leigh supervises them and cleans up their messes if things go awry or if there are ghosts present. There's lots of magic to be had here in this area. Leigh also studies what is beyond the veil. The other timeline is dominated by our other main character, Daniel Arlington, but he goes by the name Darlington. He was pretty cool. I liked his character. When Alex gets to Yale, there's this other murder, and the whole book is her trying to solve this crime. I think my expectations were too high for this book. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I did. This book has a lot of cool elements. However, there's 2 instances where this book made me feel icky. I was just like, what am I reading? I felt like I was plotting through most of this book. It wasn't until I got to the last leg of this book that the story was giving all the reveals. Isn't it like that for like every single book though? But the first half was definitely slow going. I would say that this is a strong start to a series, and I'm interested to see where Bardugo takes the rest of the series. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars out of 5 stars. Then I read Goddess in the Machine by Lora Beth Johnson. This is a stunning debut about a 17-year-old girl named Andra who's essentially been asleep for 1,000 years while she travels through space for she can colonize a new planet with her family. The only thing is, she was only supposed to be in stasis for a century, not a millennium. When she wakes up, she is thrown into a world where people believe her to be a goddess. Although it takes time for her to roll with this new identity, she soon finds her bearings and plays along as her survival depends on it. I love that Andra is fat and biracial. Though others constantly have to save her from danger, her strength as a protagonist doesn't lessen. We also follow another character named Zaid, who is extremely mysterious and doesn't let on to what his plans are. He clearly has ulterior motives that's unknown to the reader for nearly the entirety of the book. The people of Aronson live inside a biodome to protect themselves against the harsh and dangerous terrain, although the setting is very bleak, set in a desert dubbed the Wastes. The story is so vibrant, filled with wonderful and effective writing that moves the story along with many plot twists that I just gobbled up. This book paints a backdrop that so vividly reminds all of us of the path humanity is heading on in terms of how we treat the planet. The people in this world think technology is magic and believe bots are angels. Therefore, it's not so much of a stretch to think the sleeping girl in the tank that almost seems to be immortal is a goddess who awakens for the sole purpose to save them from desolation. I love how Johnson plays with the language and comes up with future slang. The distortion of words flowed smoothly across the pages. This is easily the best YA science fiction book I've ever read. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Beatrix by Emily Henry. This is a rom-com about two writers named January Andrews and Augustus Everett. It was a bit hard to take the story seriously at first because their names seem deliberately coincidental. Like, what are the chances to both be named after the months of the year? But then it grew on me. January writes romance novels while Augustus writes literary fiction. Since they are both suffering from serious bouts of writer's block, they decide to make a bet with each other to switch genres and try writing outside of their comfort zones. I like how their friendship gives them a solid foundation to work with and eventually blossoms into something more. This book was definitely a slow burn. I think the cover is inviting, but I feel like it's kind of deceiving and that the whole story is pretty heavy and inundated with non-beachy stuff. Not that that's bad, but they weren't really at the beach at all. Just saying. This book deals with things like grief and loss. I like this book a lot, but it was kind of cheesy at some parts and I didn't really want it to be so heavy. I was more hoping for it to be light and fluffy, so I ended up giving this book 3 stars out of 5 stars. Then I read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. For 3 long, nightmarish weeks, the Holts call Bainbury Hall their home. Unbeknownst to them, they have just agreed to live in a house where ghosts are running rampant. The dark history of the house adds to the mystifying suspense of the story that is told from 2 perspectives. On one hand, we have the ever so lovely Maggie, whom is in the present day and is now an adult. Then we have Ewan, who is Maggie's late father. We get to see Ewan's point of view through his non-fiction account of what happened that caused his family to flee the so-called haunted house that Maggie can't seem to believe or wrap her mind around as an adult. She's read her father's best-selling novel called House of Horrors countless times, but still can't shake the feeling that all of it is lies. Her whole life, she has grown up an outcast because of its publication. The worst part is she doesn't have any memory of the haunting since she was only 5 when they supposedly took place. Her life is dominated by lies and half-truths, with her parents constantly sidestepping her attempts at a genuine conversation that in her mind will help her understand their reasonings for keeping her in the dark. Because ghosts can't be real, right? To set her mind at ease and to finally get the answer she has sought her entire life, she decides to flip the house that has caused her so much misery and hopefully sell it. The story within the story was done exceptionally well. This book did remind me so much of The Haunting of Hill House with its own little twists. There was so many red herrings, I was drowning in them, which I guess is a good thing, but when it was time for the big reveal, I was kind of underwhelmed. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5 stars. Then I read Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This book came out 2 years ago and oh my gosh, this book was so good. I absolutely adored this book. Set in 1969, we follow Kaya from when she's just a little tiny little baby. When I say baby, I mean like 6 years old, which is still super young, until she's an adult. The beginning is so hard-hitting, it left me truly breathless. The book deals with things like abandonment, loneliness, and survival. I loved how our Kaya was able to persevere through really tough times. I just felt for her so much. I loved every single chapter. I need to read more books like this. Let me know down in the comments if you have any suggestions similar to this book. because I'm still just reeling. I was constantly closing this book and looking off into space, just thinking about what I read. It's rich in everything I love, from beautiful accounts of nature to seeing the rough realities of being on your own in the wilderness and getting to uncover a murder mystery. This book was intense and it really resonated with me. I give this book 5 stars out of 5 stars. Okay, so we're off to a good start. So far this month I've read 6 books. Not bad at all. Subscribe if you are new to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you have read or are planning to read any of these books. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!